So this video is part 3 of my breakdown of a documentary style video that recently appeared on YouTube. Now, I am going to point out that making these kind of videos is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hours goes into creating a video such as this, and a lot of research that goes into a video such as this. So I am certainly by no means criticising this creator. From what I've seen so far, he's done a pretty thorough job with his research. But at the same time, he obviously hasn't had the same luxury of time that the rest of us have in terms of being able to really dig deep into Kiely's case. So there are spots where he misses crucial bits of information, or where he has researched and come across the official line. For example, the last seen image of Kiely that we all know now was never an image of Kiely. But for anyone researching the case, it would appear that that was the situation. So my goal here is hopefully to highlight his video and not to come across in a negative way. There are a few times when I got a bit annoyed with him for cutting corners or taking a bit of artistic license. But overall, I think this guy's done a pretty good job. And what my goal is here is to just offer a little bit of clarification and correction wherever it is needed. So let's jump into this part 3 of our analysis of this video.
Due to conflicting information about Kiely's relationships with Jagger, Sammy, and other partygoers, many were left thinking the worst, but hoping for the best.
Okay, so let's call a spade a spade. Sammy and Kiely were never friends. That's been well and truly established. Her other friends have said that. We know that as a fact. As far as Jagger goes, Jagger was an ex-boyfriend. Kiely had had another boyfriend since Jagger, and whether or not they were broken up hasn't been confirmed, but we do know that that young man came from a particularly wealthy, particularly influential family.
All the while, authorities continued to piece things together bit by bit. At a press conference on August 12th, law enforcement informed the public that they'd received reports from people inside the community that there was an adult dissuading people from coming forward, prompting officials to open a 100% anonymous online portal where people could submit photos, videos, and other information concerning Kiely's disappearance.
Just a quick correction. He's saying an adult was preventing the kids from coming forward and sharing their stories or handing over videos and photos. But no, it was multiple adults. We know that from law enforcement, who said that they had heard reports of adults, plural, preventing children from coming forward. Now, here's something to consider. We have heard of one particular adult who, by her own account, was going round and talking to many of the teenagers who had been at the party. Now, this adult claims that she was doing it for the sake of the teens and that she was standing up for the teens. But is that an excuse? How do we know that this adult wasn't actually, given her connections with Sammy Smith, how do we know that this adult wasn't actually approaching teens and putting pressure on them to stay silent?
By this point, the case was just getting downright bizarre. It seemed exceedingly clear that someone knew something, and they were going to every possible effort to make sure that this information didn't get out. By August 13th, law enforcement held another press conference where Public Information Officer Angela Musala explained that they had ramped up their search for the weekend. She explained that on August 12th, there was a potential burial site that was located near the campground that had been found by search and rescue ground teams in the area. She continued saying that Kiely's family was notified, and the FBI responded to the scene, accompanied by the Placer and Nevada County Sheriff's offices, where upon further examination, they uncovered the remains of a dog. Angela went on to address the audience by saying, "Let me be clear. We have one team, one mission, and one goal, and that's to find Kiely Rodni."
That whole dog scenario is one of many, many really odd things to do with the case. Now, to me, there's definitely something more to that whole story. Why would you come out and say all that to the public in front of the media unless there is a strategy there? There is some sort of strategy going on there in them mentioning that whole finding a buried dog situation. I just can't figure out what was going on in that situation, but it was certainly more than what it seemed on the surface.
As the 9th day of the missing person investigation came to an end, the Placer County Sheriff's Office continued to follow up on 720 leads, looking for a single tip to lead them in the right direction. Meanwhile, people across the nation continued to speculate about what happened to Kiely, sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for the next clue.
I really like the way that he has done this sequentially and looked at dates and days so that you know what happened when. So he's making a really good timeline here, and I think I, for one, am going to go back through this at some point and probably look more deeply in terms of the things that we know and just, have another really deep look into the timeline that we were given. And this is a really good video, as far as I'm concerned, for doing that.
Occam's razor says that it's usually the simplest answer, but with an accident looking less and less likely with each passing day, what's the next simplest answer? What else could possibly cause someone to vanish without a trace from a crowded party? For a little over 2 weeks, Kiely's family had to go to sleep each night, not knowing where their precious daughter was, and her friends faced accusations from strangers all across the nation. And police worked tirelessly to find this missing girl. But then, a breakthrough. On August 21st, 2022, search and rescue YouTubers Adventures with Purpose pulled Kiely Rodni's silver CRV from the Prosser Reservoir.
Okay, I'm just going to say this on everyone's behalf. No, 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 no. Adventures with Purpose were not the ones who pulled Kiely's vehicle from the reservoir. They were sent away after they had found the vehicle. Law enforcement pulled Kiely's vehicle from the reservoir. They were the ones who did not cover the windows. They didn't seal the vehicle. They flipped the vehicle. They damaged the vehicle. They had their own people sticking their filthy mitts inside the car with no gloves and handling the steering wheel. One of the things which could have yielded so much evidence.
Adventures with Purpose is a YouTube channel that focuses primarily on cold cases. They specialize in underwater recoveries. When Kiely initially went missing, many familiar with their recoveries requested they join the search for the missing girl, and the team were happy to oblige. AWP states that a law enforcement agency reached out to them and asked for their help. Yet when they arrived, they were told that the lake had already been extensively searched with dive teams and there was nothing there.
Okay, this is just a small clarification, but it's important to note here that they were told that the area had been cleared, that it had been thoroughly searched and had been cleared, in that Kiely was definitely not in Prosser Reservoir. So, and Adventures with Purpose were told that they didn't need to search there. Of course, they have their policy of if we didn't search there, then it has been searched. Now, I just want to point out this photo because this is a photo that I've referred to in multiple videos now. And this is a photo of the Placer Sheriff boat coming in to the shoreline. This was from Fox News. And had he actually done a screenshot slightly after this, you would see that in actual fact what has occurred here is that the boat has been pushed into the shoreline. It's still on the water. So it hasn't been pulled out of the water. It is still on the water. But it's been pulled into the shoreline and it was never tied up. They basically shoved it into the mud and used the mud to hold the boat in place. Think about that. What does that say to you in terms of Kiely's vehicle going into the reservoir? If a big, heavy sheriff's boat that is designed to float can be pushed into the mud and they don't need to tie it up because they know it's not going anywhere.
The search began in Prosser Reservoir at 10:40 a.m. on August 21st.
No, the search began the day before when they searched Boca and Stampede reservoirs because they were told that Prosser had been cleared, and also because they had additional information which made them decide to go to Boca first.
They launched 2 sonar boats, one of which located an object at 11:15 a.m., 55 feet offshore and in only 14 feet of water.
So it's crucial to remember here that 14 feet of water is the bottom of the reservoir at the lowest point of the vehicle. In other words, that vehicle was 5 foot high. So at its lowest point, the top of that vehicle was 9 foot underwater, but it was on an incline. So as you go up the incline, the vehicle was only at one point, I believe, 5 foot underwater. I know my figures may be wrong there, I'm having a mental blank, but we know that there was a significant difference in the incline and that the highest point of the vehicle was really not that far underwater.
Using a specialized Garmin sonar device.
Okay, can we please put that one to bed? It was not a specialized sonar device. It was a fish finder. It was a freaking fish finder that you would get on any fishing boat. It wasn't specialized. Yes, they are very good at using their side sonar and whatever the other sonar is for locating vehicles and identifying that they are vehicles, but they are not specialized equipment. They are the same equipment that law enforcement had. They are the same equipment that you're going to find on a fishing boat. The same equipment that can identify a fish underwater.
Nick, one of the divers, entered the water and confirmed the vehicle was the one belonging to Kiely Rodni by matching the license plate. A diver was sent down, and unfortunately, he found a body inside the cargo area of the vehicle. According to Adventure...
Now, just a word of advice for anyone who may feel that they would like to do one of these documentary-style videos on Kiely Rodni's case, and that is this. If you are going to do something like this, covering Kiely's case from the beginning through till the autopsy, which presumably is as far as he's gone, I would strongly recommend that you do watch all the things with law enforcement, all the press releases and the community meetings, and that you definitely, even if you watch nothing else, that you watch the Adventures with Purpose video so that you know exactly what happened there, because that is crucial. Okay, he's gotten confused here, and I know it is hard when you are doing research for something like that. There is a lot of information to put out in a short space of time. But let's clarify this. It wasn't Nick identifying the vehicle and then them sending a diver down. Nick was the diver. Nick found the vehicle on the sonar. Doug came over, confirmed that it looked like a vehicle on the sonar. They moved all their equipment. They took their boat back out with Nick suited up for diving. Nick dove down and confirmed that it was Kiely's vehicle. And then in the process of recording Kiely's vehicle, he confirmed that there were remains in the vehicle. Only one diver from Adventures with Purpose went down on one single occasion, and that was Nick.
With Purpose, the Garmin EchoMap Ultra that they used to locate the vehicle cost around $2,500, a small investment for a police force of this size. It appears to be a solid investment for search and rescue teams. So if this technology is crucial for underwater searches, and a simple YouTube channel managed to purchase one, why are search and rescue teams in the area not using it? The FBI must have had the latest technology, so why were they unable to find the vehicle in the 2 weeks they helped local agencies in the search?
Okay, I will save you from having to listen to me scream, but okay, now, understandable when you are researching this as an outsider, then you're not going to have all the detailed research and all the detailed knowledge that we have. But let's just clarify things in terms of sonar equipment. Those boats, those law enforcement boats that were out there searching, also had the same side sonar equipment. It was mentioned in either a town meeting or in a press release that the water had been searched with side scan sonar. That's what Adventures with Purpose were using. Let's not forget also that we were told that there was a boat out there with MAD technology. In other words, magnetic anomaly detection devices. That is something that will scan the water and give off, will tell you when there is a metal object under the water. We were told early on that there was that used on the reservoir. We know that planes had LiDAR and FLIR technology, so they had really high-tech technology which should have allowed them to discover that vehicle underwater. So let's not get caught up in saying that law enforcement just didn't have the technology that Adventures with Purpose did. Because while I think Shannon Moon tried to claim that in the presser after Kiely was found, we know that that is bullshit. That is an excuse, and we know that beforehand they had already told us that they had searched that reservoir thoroughly with side scan sonar. They had put divers in the water, they had had swimmers in the water. They had gone over that reservoir with helicopters and planes. Let's not forget that.
After making the discovery, AWP made a Facebook post about the recovery mission. The team maintains that they reached out to law enforcement first, as they were working with them to locate Kiely. But at the press conference the following day, the spokesperson for the sheriff's department stated that AWP never reached out to them, and that the police had to go out of their way to contact the team. Due to the amazing reputation of AWP, people have been skeptical about this information, with some believing that local law enforcement were just embarrassed by their oversight.
Okay, we can put that one to bed too. Now, I've done this in multiple videos before, but law enforcement from Placer and Nevada counties both put out a post saying that they had been contacted by Adventures with Purpose and were told that Kiely's vehicle had been found and that they were headed on scene. I'm not quoting that exactly, but they made a post. They made a post on Twitter or wherever it was. And I have those screenshots. And if you go back through my videos, then you will find them. Right now, I can't lay my hands on them. You know how much stuff I've got saved with regards to Kiely's case. But Placer and Nevada County both put out the information that they had just been contacted by Adventures with Purpose to the effect that Kiely's vehicle had been found. So for them to turn around the next day in that press conference and say, well, we weren't contacted, is utter bullshit. And the evidence is there, their own posts. Okay, we also have, now it was removed from the video, but we know those people who saw the members video, and I know that Squirrels on Fire still has the original version, but in the members video you see Adventures with Purpose making a phone call to a family member to inform them that Kiely has been found. And according to their video, as soon as they had made that phone call, they then called law enforcement the same thing. So I can say with 100% confidence that they did notify law enforcement immediately once they had located the vehicle.
The discovery of Kiely's vehicle was devastating to her family and the community. But even worse was when police made the haunting announcement. The body found in the back of the car was, unfortunately, Kiely. Most would assume that this would be the end of it, case closed. But things continued to get weirder from here, as people began to question local law enforcement about their efforts in finding Kiely. Doug and Nick of Adventures with Purpose stressed that they have a unique and rare skill set, and that aiding police agencies in this way is an honor. They acknowledged their support for law enforcement across the US, including the FBI. But as the news of the discovery surfaced, many people following the case began to wonder, how could the men from Adventures with Purpose do in less than 2 hours what several agencies, large and small, couldn't accomplish in 2 weeks?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was 35 minutes that it took them to locate that vehicle in that reservoir. If it's not 35, it was pretty damn close to that period of time. So yeah, less than 2 hours, but a lot less than 2 hours.
Adventures with Purpose discovered Kiely's vehicle upside down in an area that had been, quote, extensively searched by authorities. This led many to question the competence of local law enforcement, and rightfully so, especially since a trail camera in the area shows that at 12:32 a.m. on August 6th, a vehicle drove straight into the water where Kiely was found, and at the exact location where her cell phone last pinged.
Okay, the fire cams are in themselves a completely different discussion, and I'm not going to go down that path other than to say that there is so much evidence that that is so hinky. We know that that image that we're supposed to believe is of a vehicle driving into the reservoir at 12:32 has been doctored. That may show something from a different night, but those fire cams were tampered with. I will point out one of the most crucial things with those fire cams is that there were 2 websites. Now the website which had the archived footage, which conveniently showed a vehicle supposedly going into the reservoir at supposedly the exact time that Kiely's phone did its last ping, that was only obtained by people who were emailed that link by someone. I believe it was a particular private investigator. Those of us who were not emailed that link and did a Google search for these California fire cams came up on a completely different site which did not have the archived footage and actually showed different camera angles. So that, from the get-go, makes you want to question what was going on there with the fire cams. Why is it that when people were emailed, like content creators who were covering Kiely's case, were emailed links to footage that supposedly showed Kiely's vehicle going in the water, but those people who weren't emailed those links and went searching for them themselves came across an entirely different Firecam webpage which didn't have that same evidence. Now, I'll also point out one other crucial thing, because this is so important and people keep ignoring this and keep arguing that the fire cam footage must mean that Kiely drove herself into the reservoir. That phone location was turned off at 12:03 a.m. The last ping from the phone was 12:33 a.m., half an hour later. Now, Kylie's phone was an iPhone, and I can't offhand remember the model, but it was like an 11 or a 12. Those particular iPhones will continue to work and to send a signal underwater for at least or roughly half an hour after they are submerged. Given the depth of that reservoir where the vehicle landed, yes, maybe the signal may have vanished if it went deep enough, but if that vehicle did drive in at 12:32, as we're supposed to believe, even with windows open, the vehicle would have floated for a while before submersing. Okay, there is another video on my playlist which shows someone who drove into a lake at a boat ramp, and you can see that the time it took for them to drive in and then for the vehicle to finally sink with windows open was long enough for someone to go in and actually help these people get out of their vehicle, and by the time the vehicle sunk, these people were well and truly out of the vehicle. So nothing about this footage is right, and in my opinion, anyone who puts any sort of faith in this fire cam footage is a fool.
The local police department said that they'd spent over 15,000 man-hours searching for Kiely, only for another team to come in and find her in less than 2 hours, in the same spot where her phone last pinged. Aerial views of the location clearly show something in the water where they recovered her body. So if there were air searches conducted, how was this missed?
And to quote Doug Bishop, helicopter pilots have said that they could see the bottom of the reservoir.
If she drove her vehicle into the water, it should have driven through the sand. How were those tracks missed when her mom reported her missing the very next morning, less than 12 hours after she'd vanished?
Not only were there no signs of tyre marks when they started searching for Kiely, but so crucial and something that needs to be, I'm going to say this over and over and again, because people still push the narrative that it was purely an accident. So many locals have said that you would get stuck in the mud there before you got into that reservoir. Like I said, I showed you that photo of the boat earlier. Had she been driving in towards that reservoir, her car would have been stuck in the mud before it had the opportunity to go deep enough to start floating. Full stop, end of story. We've seen images of vehicles that were stuck in the mud. It wasn't possible to simply drive out into the reservoir. People are ignoring that fact, and that gets me so frustrated. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, and I'll come back and do another video on this, because once again, we're nearly up to half an hour for this video, which is, quite a respectable length of time, and I try to keep them under half hour if possible, because there's always so much information to take in. So, thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Also, please hit the like button and leave a comment below.
I've been